Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And in this video, we are going to talk about something more funny, actually, and at least funny for me because I was like, okay, I've made enough serious videos, and this one is also this is interesting video in many aspects actually, and you're gonna love it because there's a lot to learn in this thing too. So it's not gonna be a useless video as such, but this is an interesting video about how Pakistani media is crying about something, and what that something is that India's foreign minister Dr. Jaishankar is scheduled to be in Washington DC, okay, for a critical minerals ministerial conference on 4th of February, which is hosted by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Now, meeting is basically is described to have like 20 countries in this thing, G7 plus countries, basically the friend-shoring partners, countries like India, South Korea, Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand, etc. Okay, and this will be focused on securing the critical mineral supply chains and reducing dependency risk, especially the dependency risk that is caused by China. Okay, so what Pakistani media actually is crying about is that at first, earlier in last year, uh, there were certain deals the Pakistanis actually went to. They also went to US to meet President Trump and all that, and they were given some certain feelers that they're going to have some sort of critical minerals. In fact, Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir, he brought the whole entire case of some rocks, saying that these are the minerals, critical minerals, and this and that, rare earths or something. And he thought that President Trump is gonna buy that BS that they were trying to feed him. And basically, their goal was that on the name of rare earths and all that, they were trying to rob him of some money. Basically, that was the whole entire intent. Okay, so now Pakistani media, when they realize that they are actually not part of any of that stuff, the critical minerals ministerial conference or the meeting, so now they're crying about it. Oh, why we are not part of it? Oh my god. Now uh before we get started, let's actually, you know what, let's watch the video and then we will talk more about it, okay, because this is going to be interesting.
एक मिनिस्ट्रियल कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही है ऑन क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स इन वाशिंगटन विच वुड बी प्रिजाइडेड ओवर बाय सेक्रेटरी मार्को रूबियो. अच्छा, मैं हैरान हूँ कि पाकिस्तान को उसमें दावत नहीं दी, लेकिन इंडिया वहाँ पे है. तो जयशंकर साहब वहाँ पे होंगे 4 फरवरी को और उनकी मुलाकात भी होगी. अच्छा, आई एम सरप्राइज कि पाकिस्तान इज़ नॉट इनवाइटेड. शायद मेरी इतला गलत हो, लेकिन मैंने बहुत कोशिश की, हमारी टीम ने बहुत कोशिश की, लेकिन हमें कहीं मिला नहीं. और लगता कुछ यही है कि हालांकि क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स के हवाले से तो हमारा एक एग्रीमेंट भी हुआ एक यूएस कंपनी के साथ, लेकिन हम क्यों नहीं हैं? हमें होना चाहिए था. आई डू नॉट नो ये क्यों ऐसा हुआ है, और आई डू नॉट वांट टू स्पेकुलेट आइदर, लेकिन इसमें पाकिस्तान की प्रेजेंस होनी चाहिए थी, लेकिन हम नहीं हैं. लेकिन जयशंकर साहब उस कॉन्फ्रेंस में जा रहे हैं. एक मिनिस्ट्रियल.
All right, so that's what it is. So in nutshell, he was basically crying that, oh, we just did a deal last year with one American company and this and that, but I'm surprised that why we are not invited to this thing. So see, the problem with Pakistanis is that they think that they are very important and the world revolves around them. What they don't realize is that by sponsoring terrorism, you don't become important. World actually despises you because you become a country that is sitting on a nuclear weapon. That's what the problem is. Okay, sometimes that's why a world sometimes throws you some carrots here and there so that you keep quiet. Okay, so you're not gonna be part of that critical minerals, and because that requires certain level of honesty which you lack, that requires certain level of money which you don't have, that requires certain level of skills. So when you create jihadis, then you're not gonna have that skill. Okay, only skill that you have is exploding somewhere. All right, so but anyways, so what, let's talk a little bit about that uh that conference, the ministerial meeting. So ministerial meeting is basically gonna be, let me actually show you the news, okay, so that we have the authenticity here. Okay, and then we will discuss this. Right here is the news that the am Jaishankar has to use for critical minerals meet crucial talks. Okay, now in this whole thing, all these things are said here, but the major thing is right here. Okay, so I'm gonna read this major stuff and we will look into it further. Okay, so a major development expected during the visit is India's entry into US-led Pax Silica initiative. Now, what Pax Silica is? Let me tell you this first of all. Okay, Pax Silica is basically a grouping of a semiconductor producing or semiconductor leading countries that are leading in the semiconductor chip development and all that, and countries, especially countries that can finance it, especially like countries like UAE and all that. So these are the countries that are part of it. Okay, and if you look at it, you will see that currently the current members include United Kingdom, Japan, Israel, and Australia, along with the United States and UAE as well. Okay, so and I had made a proper dedicated video on Park Silka as well earlier, but I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, so it didn't get that many views. All right, but I'll post the link down below so you go check it out. It's a very important and very interesting video because why I'm talking about all this. Okay, first let me finish this and then we'll get into it. Okay, so an economic security partnership aimed at securing critical technology supply chains and including critical minerals, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing. Now, current members include United Kingdom, Japan, Israel, and Australia, and UAE as well. Okay, so India's decision to join after remaining on the sidelines for several weeks is being viewed as strategic signal of alignment with US-led frameworks on supply chain resilience and technology security. Now, first of all, let me make this very clear to you guys, okay? That this statement right here, that is viewed as strategic signal of alignment. Okay, so this is not the strategic signal of alignment. All right, this whole thing was planned all along. Okay, why I'm saying this, see, I'll tell you. There is let's go back a little bit in time. All right, and then everything will start to make sense to you. See, US in 2010, US along with its partners and allies, they realized that uh, their hardware, the military hardware, including F-35 and all, uh, they have Chinese certain part of it. Those are like Chinese chips. Their Chinese chips are involved in it, and they are using those things. And now, considering that entire NATO uses US hardware, Israel uses US hardware, right? Then Middle East uses US hardware. So that means that all those things combined, that becomes a major national security issue for each one of them. And India is not. Um, it's not that India is excluded from this whole thing. India also had the same problem. Why? Because India also found out that they had lots of military hardware they were using, even though it looked like it was Russian, and lots of chips that they thought that they have developed themselves and all that, but uh, still certain chips were Chinese made. Now, uh, yes, China made chips is not a problem as a China made chip. If you're using it in a radio or something, or in a TV or something, I mean, somewhere, it's okay. But when you're using it in a military hardware, then it becomes a serious problem. Now, that's one aspect of it. Second thing is that a world has already seen a big problem. What that problem is? The problem is the unipolar world. Okay, unipolar world. What was the unipolar world? Unipolar world was created after the debacle of Soviet Union, and then came the unipolar world, the world of petrodollar, the world of the one fiat currency. And that world was led by what? Oil. Oil was what? Oil was single most important commodity at that point, and the whole point of convergence to buy the oil was Middle East. Okay, any other sources to buy the oil was systematically removed by applying what? Sanctions. For example, whether you take Libya, whether you take Venezuela, or we take Iraq or Iran, like that. Okay, all that was done just so that there are few Middle Eastern countries that are allowed to sell the oil, and that was the petrodollar system. Now, just recently, I don't know how many of you actually watched World Economic Forum, and I watched it many times. Now, in that World Economic Forum, Mark Carney, I think I loved Mark Carney's speech. Okay, yes, lots of people will complain about it, that they will say that, oh, he's this, he's that. That's personal stuff. Okay, I'm talking about the speech. Now, in this speech, he said a very strong thing. He said that the old world order is dead, and we are not going to sit here and wait for the old world order to come back, and it's no point in doing that. And he had a point, but the question really is, what old world order we are talking about? The old world order was the petrodollar world order. Okay, so now in the new world order, which is the driving factor, driving force behind the fourth industrial revolution. What is fourth industrial revolution? Just one liner, I'll tell you. The fourth industrial revolution is about semiconductors, artificial intelligence, the digital settlements. Digital payment is already taken care of. Now we are entering the era of digital settlement, that is CBDCs, the um, your central bank digital currencies. Okay, so all this era we are entering now, slowly and slowly. So as we move forward, then world does not want to depend on uh, the rare earth that is completely dominated by China. The entire supply chain of semiconductors, entire supply chain of rare earths is dominated by China. 90%, 95% is dominated by China. Now, we're not going to get into how China actually dominated the whole thing and how China all did all that. China, in a nutshell, what China did, the Chinese government actually subsidized the mineral extraction and their refining and all that thing, all that process, because it's a very expensive process, and they subsidized it for their country, for their companies. Okay, so that they can dominate. That's what Chinese do. Okay, Chinese companies, that's what they do. Whenever they go in some other country, they get so much subsidy from their own country, that what they do is that they drop their prices of their products so much so that local competition is completely gone. And when the local competition is gone, then they take over the market. Okay, that's a very simple strategy. And in the rare earth, Chinese, what they did is that they just subsidized their rare earth production so much so that any other country that was even thinking about producing it, they just stopped doing it. Okay, so the problem at this point right now is that world is not able to produce the rare earth. Now, since world cannot produce the rare earth, and they cannot extract and refine and all that, at least cheaply. So they are looking for partners who can actually do these things. So it's going to be a shared effort. So there will be multiple countries doing this thing, and hence the group Pax Silica. Now, what's interesting about Pax Silica is that there is no Taiwan in it. There is no Taiwan in it. Okay, even though TSMC is the 100%, actually not 100%, I would say 85%. TSMC controls the 85% say semiconductor production. 15% goes to Samsung, actually Samsung in South Korea. Okay, so now what's gonna happen is the South Korea will become the major player in this whole semiconductor production, and while India plays catch up. So once India is there, then you will see that uh, India will start to produce 3 to 2 nanometer chips as well. And India is also going to create a supply chain for rare earth processing, rare earth refining, and all that. Okay. So why US cannot do it? US cannot do it is simply because cost of it will be too expensive. Okay. But what US can do is that US has the technology and all that, and US has that influence in ASML and all that. So what US can do is that US can enforce that process within the partners, that hey, we got to work this thing out. We got to take care of this business. All right, so they can use their influence to help their friend-shoring partners. Okay, and in fact, I think that Australia is going to be involved in producing, and Israel is going to be involved in producing, and India is going to be producing, and UAE will be doing it too. So anybody who thinks that all this reset or the supply chain reset, or I mean, lots of people, what actually what's happening is that this is creating sort of confusion that people are thinking that this is a dollar reset or something is happening. No, it's not dollar reset that's happening. It's the supply chain reset that's happening. And supply chain reset is happening to adjust for the fourth industrial revolution, to succeed in the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, Dr. S. Jaishankar already said this thing in the past, in many times in the interviews, that that we definitely don't want to miss out on the fourth industrial revolution. All right, that's what the whole entire thing was. All right, now let's look into it here some more. All right, now we talked about this. The visit follows a series of recent high-level interactions. Last week, Jaishankar met three-member U.S. congressional delegation, Jimmy Petronis, Mike Rogers, and Adam Smith, to discuss trade, security, and critical technologies. Ambassador Gore, Sergio Gore, he is the US ambassador to India, who attended the meeting, described the talks as productive with the focus on strengthening the bilateral partnership. Engagement on critical mineral has gained particular momentum. Earlier this month, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw participated in Critical Minerals Ministerial hosted by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Uh, Highlighting India's growing role in shaping resilient global supply chains. Jaishankar's visit is expected to further anchor this cooperation even as both sides continue to navigate unresolved trade disputes. See, trade dispute is not going to be a roadblock. All right, all that is just talk, and all that is gonna be the water under the bridge. All right, that's exactly how it's gonna play out. Ultimately, US will simply realize that, yeah, there are certain things let's not touch. All right, if you notice, just recently President Trump made a remark about that India buying oil from Venezuela. Now, for those who don't know, India buying oil from Venezuela is nothing new. India has always uh, bought oil from Venezuela because India needs the light crude for the petrol basically. Okay, so India does that regardless. But what he said that India is going to buy oil from Venezuela, but they're not going to buy oil from Iran. India already doesn't buy oil from Iran. India stopped buying oil from Iran in President Trump's first term, when he requested Prime Minister Modi to not buy oil from Iran. And Prime Minister Modi obliged for this thing. And this he said, okay, no problem. So I think, but why he said that? He said that because he didn't want to say Russia. So now at this point, I think US has realized that it's no point in discussing all those things with India. That's a moot point. So there's no let's not discuss that. So that's why he used Iran, and Iran is sort of called kind of a keyword as well, right? So keyword makes makes you popular for anybody, any public figure, anyone. For them, popularity is very important, so they have to say certain things. And then he was like, we are inviting China too." Well, if you're inviting China over there to buy oil and all that, then why were you seizing Chinese ships and all too? But at that time, it was not their control. They were not controlling, but now they are going to control it. Coming back to the video, uh, so that's why Pakistanis are crying, because they thought that they are very important. They have sidelined India, all that good stuff. But turns out that they just got fooled. They thought that everyone else is fool. That's how they think. Their whole thing is that they're like pathological liars. Okay, they get up and they're like, okay, we gotta lie, man. I cannot digest my food now. So in order to even digest the food, they have to lie. Okay, and that's what they do all the time. So this is that you see, that you heard, all this is just nothing but a delusion that they think that they're very important. And finally, when the dust settles, they realize that nobody gives a damn about them. Okay, and let's watch the video one more time. Actually, I loved it.
कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही है on critical minerals in Washington, which would be presided over by Secretary Marco Rubio. अच्छा, मैं हैरान हूँ कि पाकिस्तान को उसमें दावत नहीं दी, लेकिन इंडिया वहाँ पे है।
Look at his face. Look at his face.
तो जयशंकर साहब वहाँ पे होंगे 4 फरवरी को, और उनकी मुलाकात भी होगी। अच्छा, आई एम सरप्राइज कि पाकिस्तान इज़ नॉट इनवाइटेड। शायद मेरी इतला गलत हो, लेकिन मैंने बहुत कोशिश की, हमारी टीम
Bro, repeating yourself in English is not gonna change your circumstances, all right?
ने बहुत कोशिश की, लेकिन हमें कहीं मिला नहीं। और लगता कुछ यही है कि हालांकि क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स के हवाले से तो हमारा एक एग्रीमेंट भी हुआ एक यूएस कंपनी के साथ, लेकिन हम क्यों नहीं हैं? हमें होना चाहिए था। आई डू नॉट नो ये क्यों ऐसा हुआ है, और आई डू नॉट वांट टू स्पेकुलेट आइदर, लेकिन इसमें पाकिस्तान की प्रेजेंस होनी चाहिए थी, लेकिन हम नहीं हैं। लेकिन जयशंकर साहब उस कॉन्फ्रेंस में जा रहे हैं। एक
So this is it for this video, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for sure, and yes, please do go check out my Pax Silica video. Okay, this is very important video. It's gonna explain you what exactly Pax Silica is. All right. So this is it for this video, and I will talk to you guys in next video, and that's gonna be about the fourth industrial revolution, and that's gonna come out tomorrow. Okay, so keep an eye out, and this is gonna be a very interesting video. Fourth industrial revolution. To know about fourth industrial revolution is very important, so we need to really know. Okay, once I explain about the fourth industrial revolution, then uh I think that's gonna close the whole entire loop. That's when you will have every picture, all those picture will be very clear as to what is going on around us. It's not about the dollar, it's not about all that thing that people are saying. Lots of people who hate dollar, they think that everything that happens is because lots of because of de-dollarization. And I think I'm gonna have to make one more video just to explain the de-dollarization, that how world is not de-dollarizing, guys. That's not that's just not happening. Only way de-dollarization will happen or pick up the pace is if the CBDCs are widely accepted as a legal tender, okay? And if the payment systems are linked properly and they start to get used, okay, so then you may see, even then also you will not see dollars decline. You will see probably uh, trade in national currencies is going to grow, but that's about it. Okay, so there is a big difference between the two things, right? Because at the end of the day, trade depends on the traders, not the governments. So that's the bottom line. All right, so please do like and subscribe, guys. I hope you learned something as well from this funny video, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.